Welcome to another broadcast. This was one I wasn't really planning on, but this is such a hot topic, and I want to just continue on it because, man, I tell you, it's just really been something. And what am I talking about? I'm still on this whole thing about this this thing going on in Florida, and where the allegation was made that what was being said or suggested that is that these people in Florida, on this commission were suggesting that that there is that black people benefited from slavery. That is not what they were saying at all. We just did a video. If you look at the last live we did, I'll pull it up on the screen here. Give me just a moment. I would highly encourage you to go to this live or go to this broadcast and watch it. I would highly encourage you to do that. It's this one right here. Because this one right here, we actually took the time and read it. We went through it ourselves and kept everything in full context. And once you read it in its entirety, you'll see that is far from what these individuals were suggesting at all. I think the thing that really gets me is how easy and how quickly many of our people will make these, will jump on these things and don't even bother to investigate themselves. I told my wife, I said, I think this is really, I really think this is a modern day literacy test. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you go back in history, early in this country, for when black people were somewhat allowed to vote, they had to issue what was called literacy tests. You had to prove that you was able to read and write. And if you failed, then you couldn't vote. Now, given the climate, that our people were just coming out of, then the probability of many of our people being able to read and write, is going to be very low because, again, it was the climate, they just coming out of slavery and Jim Crow and all that stuff. So there was a lot of facilities that were not available to them so that they could learn to read and write. And so our inability to read and write was something that was weaponized against us. But what I see happening now is that there's a willingness not to read that we're weaponizing against ourselves. So again, going back again, if you have not seen the video, please go back to that video because we actually read it. So if you're just jumping in and you read it and say, I hate DeSantis, I hate the conservatives, I hate the Republicans, we're not even talking about any of that. This is all dealing with specifically us as a people and the tragedy that's happening and unfolding right before our eyes. I was on Twitter earlier today and I saw Stephen A. Smith. I saw someone that was with NPR. I mean, there are some very prominent people. For goodness sake, you even had the first lady, Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States, repeating this lie over and over again. There's people all on radio saying, that they're saying that that we benefited from slavery, and that's not true. And people just are running off to the races on this. And I'm like, that is not what is being said at all. And so as the title suggests, what you're experiencing is in fact, what we're going through right now is in fact a modern day literacy test. And it's a literacy test that's not just being being introduced by white people, but you also have black people who are giving this to other black people. But I'm gonna tell you why I wanted to jump on here, because there's another layer to this whole thing that I want you to understand, about this and what's really going on and why you should be paying attention to this. Okay. But first, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually pull up this gentleman. His name is Dr. William B. Allen. Dr. William B. Allen, he was one of the main contributors to this whole curriculum. And what happened is, because I actually listened to, a good part of his interview. Not the clip that I'm about to play for you, but there was another part. He was interviewed by ABC News. ABC News, they cut out a lot of the stuff that he was actually saying because he took Kamala Harris to task word to word and basically was saying she was a liar, and not just her, but anybody else as well. I mean, he was respectful, but I'm saying he's saying that, no, that is not at all. That would be ridiculous for me to say that. But ABC News cut it out. Now, see, what really gets me too is that you got a lot of Negroes out here that were out here saying how Kamala Harris ain't this and she ain't that, and she don't care about black people and all this other stuff. But this woman gets out here before an international audience and says a lie about a black person, and an overwhelming majority of our people are out here repeating her lie against a black man. He ain't half. He's a full black man who loves his people. And this is what gets me, is how quickly people can pivot with very little information. Why? Because they don't even want to read. They don't even want to pick up a book. They don't even want to take a few minutes and listen to what this black man was actually saying. So anyway, here's the, this is a clip. This is a portion that ABC News left out. And I want you to hear it, and then we'll read a little bit of the article, okay? So this is what he was saying. I can get the audio. There you go.
There's been a little bit of backlash to these standards that were put out, and like you said, that these were done in open sessions so the public could listen or watch along. What would you say to critics who say these standards have set education back?
Well, I can't answer critics whom I haven't seen or heard. The only criticism I've encountered so far is a single one that was articulated by the vice president, and which was an error. As I stated in my response to the vice president, it was categorically false. It was never said that slavery was beneficial to Africans. What was said, and anyone who reads this will see this with clarity, it is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
Yeah, so there you go. So let me now get into the article here. Let me see. Was it this one? Okay, all right, maybe I'll read this one here. Okay, this is an article from the Florida News. And let's see here. So you heard what he said. He was grossly mischaracterized on what he said. They clipped out exactly what they wanted to clip out, and they ran with it. And a lot of our own people who want to be willingly ignorant, because we have been trained through and through to hate anything that comes from the right. You hate it. Don't even think about it. But the left, will take them to task, but ultimately on election day, we're going to vote for them anyway. Now, again, like I told you, let me put it on the big screen again. Let me put myself on the Summer Jam screen. I am not telling people, I am not suggesting that you need to listen to conservatives or you need to vote for them. From the rip, I will tell you again, I believe that the government of this country, I don't care which is made up of right and left, from the root is a racist country that has never had us as a people to their best interests. So therefore, I don't have, when it comes to them, I ain't got nothing more to say to them. I don't expect them, nor do I want them touching any more of our history. 400 years is long enough for you to screw things up. I don't expect or even want you to even touch on any of our history. That is our responsibility. So I don't care if this was taking place in Florida or in New York City, or in California. It doesn't matter to me. I believe that our history, Black history, African history, should be first and foremost taught by us and us alone. I do not believe, nor do I want any government to teach our history. Okay. So I want to be very clear again. This is not in any defense of any government. This is about us. This is an in-house conversation with us here, black folks, in looking at how we are still failing something that we should be doing ourselves anyway, and that is reading and getting firsthand information instead of depending on these people to give us second and third hand information, because that's exactly what's happening. So anyway, let me just read this, go through this article real quick. And this has a lot more of what the doctor just said here. He says, the creator says it is disappointing, but nevertheless unsurprising that critics would reduce months of work to create Florida's first and ever standalone strand of African-American history standards to a few isolated expressions without context. Everything he's saying, we just said this the other day. The intent of this particular benchmark clarification is to show that some slaves developed highly specialized trades from which they benefited. The creator said this is factual and well documented. They listed examples including blacksmiths like Ned Cobb, Henry Blair, Lewis Latimer, and John Henry, shoemakers like James Fortin, Paul Cuffey, and Betty Washington Lewis, fishing and shipping industry workers like Jupiter Hammond, John Chavis, William Whipper, and Crispus Attucks, tailors like Elizabeth Keckley, James Thomas, and Marietta Carter, and teachers like Betsy Stockton and Booker T. Washington. However, some of the examples of people listed in the press release were not slaves themselves, but their relatives were. Those members of the work group said that they use a methodical process to ensure that new standards provide comprehensive and rigorous instruction on African American history. All right. Let's see the rules. Okay, let me see here. And I'm just skipping down. You can read the whole thing yourself. Any attempt to reduce slaves to just victims of oppression fails to recognize their strength, courage, and resiliency during a difficult time in American history. The joint statement said, Florida students deserve to learn how slaves took advantage of whatever circumstance they were in to benefit themselves and the community of African descendants. And then they go on here. All right, they go on and they just compounded more and more on that. So again, to repeat what we just said in our other video when we were talking about this earlier, what he was, when you read the whole thing, because all of these ashy mouths that I'm hearing out here that are talking about this, not one person that I've seen on YouTube actually took the time like we did on this platform and actually read the doggone thing. And once you read it, you'll see, okay, now I understand what he's saying. It makes a lot of sense. In fact, a lot of stuff that's in here, that's good that they're teaching it. But again, I personally think that it's not the government's responsibility to teach our history. We should teach it. All right. That's where I stand. That's where I always stand on that. But what was covered in this curriculum, I'm okay with. I mean, they're talking about everything from the slave codes, the color codes, right? You remember the Noir codes, where there were, if you're black, there was special codes for black folks, in terms of the law and all that kind of stuff, right? They also talked about the different rebellions, the different slave rebellions that took place from the Stono Rebellion on down, and Nat Turner and all of that. They talk about both sides of it, the what was benefited out of it, as far as black folks are concerned, but also what came as a result of it, the negative, because there were a lot of laws and stuff that were passed as a result of the rebellions that took place, right? So they're talking about that. They also talk about the skill sets and stuff that we brought from the continent. They go through all of that. And they talk about just the injustices and stuff that was put on us through laws, through land being taken from us. It's very comprehensive from what I'm seeing. You understand what I'm saying? So when I look at it, thank you, Nguzo. Appreciate that super chat. Appreciate that. But yeah, it's very comprehensive from what I'm seeing. Now, we can quibble about certain things that aren't in there that should be in there. I'm cool with that. But to take a little snippet of this man's work, not just him, but the other black folks who contributed to this, and to repeat what these people out here are wanting you to repeat, shows clear evidence that many of our people at the end of the day would not pass a literacy test if it was issued out today. Why? Because most of our people do not, and they refuse to read. They don't want to read anything. They want someone to tell them what to think and what to believe. Now, why am I taking time to do this particular broadcast? Because there's another layer to this that I think is very important. Now, what the argument is that they are saying, what they're really creating this whole noise about is they're saying that he's saying that they're, these people down here, they're saying that there was a benefit to slavery and all this stuff. So we've already proven that to be false. That is not what's being said at all, right? But what is being said again, there's a key thing that I just read to you. Resiliency. This is very key. Very key. Resiliency. I'm going to say it 3 more times because I want this word to ring in your heart, in your spirit, in your mind. When you wake up tomorrow, I want this word to ring in your mind. Resiliency. Resiliency. And I'm going to say it one more time. Resiliency. This is the main thing all of these voices that are out here want you not to learn about. Okay? Why is that important? Because our people have a long history of resiliency. When we came out of slavery, we had to learn how to be resilient with the pieces that were left over. We done gave ourselves our lives. We were beaten down. We had nothing, right? But we walked away with certain knowledges. You understand what I'm saying? There were certain skills that we already had that we had to learn to adjust so that we can kind of make it through or navigate through a still racist system. Even though slavery as we knew it was over, then came in Jim Crow. So so now we had to deal with an economic pushback, if you will, that squashed us economically at every turn. So my people, your people, we had to put our minds together and say, okay, now, right now I don't have this, but I know how to do this. Let me put this together. Okay, let me put this together. And then we were able to be successful in many ways. So out of that, you had restaurants that came out of that. You had people who were builders that came out of that. This is your people. You had people, and I talked about in that broadcast I did recently, seamstresses. I would highly encourage you to do a search, do your own study on black seamstresses. I'm saying that right. Dressmakers, people that made suits. You know who the leading people were in making these things after the Civil War? It was black women. Where did they get that skill set from? Well, they already knew how to sew. In other words, our people already knew how to put together clothes. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been brought over here. But what was introduced during that time, it was the sewing machine. So we took the existing skill set we already had, we adjusted it to, okay, now this is the new tools we have. Let's work it out. And they became very successful. Nobody's sitting here applauding and thanking God for slavery for that. That was just the pieces that we were left over with. And so we had to learn how to be resilient with what was left over. This is a very, very, very key point that I want you to get this. Because because if you don't get this, you're going to miss the overall lesson that's being taught right now before you. All of these powers that shouldn't be, that are running their mouths, creating false arguments, their goal right now is to get you distracted from understanding and learning about how resilient your people are, have been, and will continue to be. So, because the things that is about to go down in this country and in the economy all over the world, the one thing that especially black folks are going to need to have is the ability to be resilient. Because, for example, if the internet gets cut off, what is your plan B? Let me say that again. If the internet gets cut off right now, what is your plan B? Think about all the things you do on the internet. What is your plan B for that? If your power gets cut off, what is your plan B for that? Do you got a plan B for that if your power gets cut off? What if you find out that the water that's coming out of your faucet is toxic? Well, it already is. But what is your plan B for getting clean water for your family? Do you got a plan for that? Have you researched the springs, the natural springs that are in your area? Have you taken the time to do that? Or are you just sitting there waiting for the government to come through with some water bottles? What about shelter? If you don't have shelter for your family, if you all of a sudden you had to get kicked out of your house, what's your plan for that? Do you know how to be resilient? Have you gone through these things in your mind and actually prepared for them? Or are you just hanging out in chat rooms and in comment sections talking about, oh, the Most High, he gonna come and he gonna come, he gonna rectify all this stuff and he gonna come down on the heat and he gonna rain down. Okay, all right, well, hopefully that does happen. But in the meantime, what is your plan to be resilient in the meantime? What's your plan? See, you and I, we stand on the shoulders of people who that's what they had to be. They had to be resilient. They had to figure it out. And I'm going to tell you, what happened, many of y'all remember Katrina. Y'all remember Katrina, the storm that took place down in New Orleans? I'm going to tell you something. That revealed just how not resilient many of our people are. It did. Do you remember that many people, when basically the government, local people, they were saying, listen, you need to get out. You need to get out. You need to get out of New Orleans. You need to get out of Louisiana. You need to get out of here because this storm is nasty. A lot of people decide to stay. Why? Because they believe that, well, it ain't going to be that bad. And if it is, the government's going to take care of us. And then what happened? Storm came, and it wasn't just bad. It was even worse than what they were projecting. And what happened? You had a bunch of our people standing on top of cars, standing on top of rooftops, going into what was it? The Superdome? Was it called the Superdome down there? Waiting for the government to come in and to rescue them. They put all of their trust, all of their hope, all of everything into the hands of the government. You had elderly that died because the younger ones were sitting around depending on the government to come through for not just for them, but also for their elders too. They were depending on all of that. So the resiliency, we had a resiliency test when Katrina broke out. And all in all, I would say when you look back, we failed it. We did. I remember when that happened. We were living in California when that happened. I was living in California. I met people who were, the government came in and said, we don't know what to do with y'all. So we're going to start moving you all throughout the country. Wherever we can drop y'all, we're going to start dropping y'all. They were taking black folks, black folks and dropping them all over the country. As far as Southern California, they were dropping people there. I was there. I remember because I met a lady who said she had a business and all that got wiped out, right? She said, I really don't have anything. She said, right now, the government told me to come out here. So I don't know anybody out here, so I guess I have to make through here. They gave me enough money to stay in the hotel for a little bit, but that's it. And it wasn't just her, it was a bunch of people. And they were scattering black folks all over the place. So this is why on this platform, we take the time and go through, hey, listen, today we're going to talk about making sure you get your spring water. All right, we're going to talk about getting your go bag. We're going to talk about getting your prep bag. We're going to talk about this and that. And really the ultimate thing is getting your mind right so that when things do break out, you can pull on what your ancestors did and being resilient so that when hell does break loose, you already prepared. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the key. That was the ultimate thing that's this whole thing is about. They want black folks to not learn this lesson on being resilient when hell breaks loose. Because see, if black folks are resilient, if we can pull on that same energy that our people pulled on when we came out of slavery and was still able to move on and do things or whatever, that's the last thing they want, because they don't want to see us win. They don't want to see us succeed. So what just transpired in this last week is a literacy test. They want to see, are these black folks, are they even reading this stuff? Let's put a test out here. So they did what they always do. We're going to lead out with an emotional argument. We're going to take something out of context and we're going to throw it out there. Let's get Kamala Harris. They'll believe anything she say, and let her say something. And as soon as she got up there and lied on this black man, this whole black man, and then you have black folks coming from all over the place. Tariq Nasheed, Stephen A. Smith. I mean, there's people all over. I've seen pastors, all kinds of folks that are out here lying on this man. And now one of them, I listened to him. Now one of them picked it up and said, okay, well, let's read it. Nobody did. I said, well, how about read what he said? You're just repeating what the white people excerpted from his stuff. You didn't read it. That's why when we, like, for example, the book we were talking about from, from Babylon to Timbuktu, for example. We're just scratching the surface on that. I'm giving an example. See, you got some folks on there, when we start looking at that book, you had some folks that were getting mad because I was looking in the book. And I was like, I'm literally reading the man's words. And then you have people, you got to be careful about this one here because, hey, listen, and start bringing up scriptures and all. I'm like, why are you just trying to scare up people? Let the man's work speak for itself. If he's a fool, then let him stand on his foolishness. If he's wise and he's accurate, then let him stand on that, period. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let the man speak. So this is what's happening right now. This is a literacy test that we're experiencing right now. I'm just simply amazed at the amount of people who won't even take the time to even read this thing. They're just literally repeating. It's another woman too that I know of, and I confronted her on it. It's on social media and did a whole thing, a response to it and all this. And I was like, sis, that's not what he's saying. Now, what you're saying historically is accurate, but that's not what is being said here. So my point is, again, family, is that don't miss what's really happening here. And that's the importance of us as a people learning and knowing how to be resilient in tough times. We're going to have to learn that. We're going to have to learn that lesson. And I would say on a final note, because I said this ain't going to be a long one. On a final note, let me leave you with this. Tomorrow, I'm going to try because I got a little time tomorrow. There in New Jersey, there is about 20. Let me back up. You know how a lot of times when we talk about, black towns that were built by black folks, what is the one town that everybody usually talks about when we bring up towns that were built by black folks? What's the one town that is always brought up in that conversation? Let me help you out. Greenwood or Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street always comes up, doesn't it? When we talk about black towns that were built by black folks, the one example that most black folks bring up is Greenwood. That's the one town. And that's it, as if that was the only one. Let me tell you why that's the case. The reason why that is brought up isn't because of the success. It's because of the failure that took place. And I'm not saying the failure in terms of the black folks. I'm talking about the failure of this nation living up to what it claimed to be. I mean, when you bombing up black folks and setting businesses on fire and all that, yeah, that's a failure. That's what I'm talking about. But it's almost as if someone had mentioned gatekeepers, the word gatekeepers, or I would say powers that shouldn't be. It don't matter. We're talking about the same people. But it's almost as if our people will prefer stories with sad endings than stories that have successful endings. I don't know about you. I've noticed this a lot. It's like when we look at historical, yeah, we built that, but yeah, they took it away. Yeah, we did this part, but yeah, they crucified them, or they hung them, they lynched them, or whatever. Yeah, it's like you can't win for nothing around here in this country. Now, understand what I'm saying. I am not suggesting that this land is free and open and we can do what we want. Nobody looks at color anymore. I'm not saying that, okay? I ain't dumb, all right? But what I am saying is this. Did you know, and I've said this before, did you know that in New Jersey, in the state of New Jersey, there is about 20, if I got it correct, I got it on my desktop somewhere. There's about 20 towns that are still in existence today that were built, that started, was originally erected by black folks, and they are still in existence today. That's just here in New Jersey, about 20 of them. Did you know that? Why these towns don't come up? Now, let's go back in history so we can get full context again. When you bring up Greenwood or, Black Wall Street, what people have to understand is this. These towns were not exclusively and only black folks that were living there. You also had white people living there. You had natives that were living there as well. So, yes, ultimately white folks, the devil just came out of them and they just tore it all down. But not all white folks were like that. You had white folks that were doing business and all that stuff. What black folks really were after, like we always are, is that we just wanted a space where we can control and we can live our best life. If a few white people came in, so be it. As long as you chill, you ain't trying to disrupt what's happening here, we okay with you. You'll find that in a lot of these towns. I've taken the time and I've actually read about and studied. There are books about this as well, about a lot of these black towns that we created. And you'll find it wasn't all black folks. It wasn't 100% black folks. You had other people that were living there too. But we were the ones that were controlling the destinies of these towns, right? And so Greenwood was no exception to that. So likewise, so fast forward, those models, Greenwood is still in existence. We already know that, right? It's still in existence today. But when you go to these other examples that are just here in New Jersey, these towns are still in existence and they're thriving. In these towns, you have black folks that own their businesses. They own their own businesses. You have black folks that have some nice homes and got a big sizable piece of property. Okay. You got some black folks. I was reading recently down, if you go further South Jersey, there's even black folks that are buying land down there and growing their own fruits and vegetables in South Jersey. See, these are the resilient stories that watch it, Dwayne, that these Negroes out here don't want to talk about. Instead, they want to spin you off on some of these dumb stories that are for the illiterate. That the willingly illiterate that don't want to read this stuff. But there are many examples out here. So tomorrow, anyway, I'm going to actually I already went there, but I'm going to go back because I want to get some more footage. There's a town not too far from here that I say it's a town, but it's actually a village because it's small. It was constructed and built by black folks, and it's been there since before the Civil War. Now, they don't have like shops and all that stuff. They don't have all of that in there now. It's just mainly houses, but they got some nice land back there, Jack. And they got their own historical society. You know, they got some buildings there that been there. You can tell that's been there for a while. That's just one. But there's other towns all throughout Jersey. Now, if you drive through these towns today, you'll see, a significant amount of white folks living there, right? You know, that's true. But those towns would not be there had not black folks created them in the first place. So this is history literally all up in your face of that tell the story of the resiliency that we have. Nobody's sitting up here thanking God for slavery about that. We had to work with what we had. So yeah, so we're gonna do that. Because I have most of the stuff. If I do get the video up tomorrow, it'll be late tomorrow, but I'm gonna do my best to try to get it up tomorrow. The latest will be Thursday. And I'm gonna take you to just one of these towns and walk you through and show you. Maybe I'll get the chance to meet with someone. I already reached out to somebody. I'm waiting to hear back from them, because I would love the opportunity to talk to some people. But yeah, it's all laid out. But that's 20, at least 20 black towns in New Jersey. But every time the conversation comes up about black towns that were built by black folks, the only two that come up is Rosewood and Greenwood. Those are the only ones that come up. Why? Because they end in tragedy and sadness and hopelessness. Think about this. The NAACP, which supposedly is for the uplifting of black folks. Do you know that their magazine, you know the name of the NAACP magazine is? Crises. That's the name of their magazine, Crises Magazine. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to marketing. I mean, I have a marketing background, but I'm not an expert at it. Okay, I'm not going to say I'm 100%. There are people that are, they're way, way good. But when it comes to creating a magazine, I don't know if I would call if I wanted to be marketable, if I wanted to be something that gave positive vibes to people and gave them hope and all that, I don't think I would name it Crises. But that's what they call it. It's been called that since day one, Crises Magazine. So it just gives you an idea what these people are ultimately about. They want to keep you in a perpetual state of fear and always depending and relying on the government. Like I said earlier, and I'll say it again, I don't give two craps about Florida. I live there, I've experienced it, and I can tell you a thing or two about Florida, okay? Just to keep it 100% as a black person, all right? I can tell you a thing or two about Florida. So I am in no defense of Florida. What all of this that you hear is not about Florida. It is not to get you to vote for anybody. It's about really challenging my people, the ones I love, to stop moving on your emotion and start doing your own investigation so that you can find the more accurate truth on all of this stuff. Because all of these talking heads that are out here, many of them don't care about you, even the black ones. Anything that's going to get more clicks, they'll do it. Now, if I was to do a video up here right now and I was talking about male and female, the gender wars and how black women ain't this and black women need to come up and all this other stuff. I mean, this is live right now. Well, I'll probably have hundreds of people on here right now. But you know me, I don't, like I told you, and I really do mean it. I don't trip over that. I don't trip over, I don't have a whole lot of people on live. Because I'll talk, just like I'm talking to you right now, I talk to myself like this, for real. So even if it's just me on here, I'll say, at least I got it recorded. At least I got it recorded. But seriously, that's kind of how I think on this. But when you see, but again, my thing is this, is to really to challenge our people. Listen, when you hear or see these things that are popping up here, family, make sure you do your own due diligence and investigate it before you open your mouth. You understand what I'm saying? Because you got too many people out here that are repeating stuff that's so inaccurate and is not even true at all until and then once you sit back, in this particular case, I sat back and I start looking, I said, my goodness, I said, I see exactly what these devils are doing. because the real issue here is getting our people, convincing our people to be resilient in hard times. They don't want black folks to learn about that. We don't want black people to be resilient. We don't want black people to learn how to be resilient, to depend on themselves and to rely. When I tell you, you can do a whole entire channel just on the resiliency of black folks. We ain't even getting started. I mean, it's a wonderful, beautiful history, and it's one that's extremely inspiring. It's a story that to this day, many of our people are still writing. There are a lot of stories out here today. In fact, many of you are walking, living, breathing examples of resiliency in your own families. That's why I tell people all the time, you want to know who you are? Start in your own home. Don't start on the internet, start at home. And in your own home, you will see example after example where people had to be resilient. They had to learn how to do with little. And that's exactly what this individual, is trying to relay here when it comes to our history and why it's so important for us to learn about it. And for that, I am 100% for that, is our people learn, because I think this is because what the things that are about to come down and have been coming down, if black folks don't learn the art of being resilient, many of our people, unfortunately, are going to get completely wiped out. And we're already seeing that starting to happen. Okay. Now, today, if you didn't see it already, there's a video I posted over on mybondtube.com, because we're talking about I can't talk about it on this platform because, again, I'm on a digital plantation here. So I can't, there's certain things they say you can't talk about. Okay, fine. We build our own place and where we can say what needs to be said over there. So go to our community page and then you can check it out over there. Okay. But we talked about it. As you know, you heard about the famous basketball player son and what happened to him. Okay. I got to talk high level here. And, at some point, the video that I did today, and because I'm done, the video I did today, I was talking about, I am no longer, there was a time I used to be excited and happy and feel a sense of being proud when I would see a room full of young black men and women graduating, going into medical school, and seeing, man, look at all these black doctors, look at all the future black doctors and all that stuff. I used to be very proud of that. I'm not anymore. The reason why is because of the fact when you have an active strategy that is happening right this second, that is targeting your people, where you see many of you have your own stories of people who made that choice and they're suffering for it because of that choice. Many of you are living that right now. You have those stories right in your own house right now. And the fact that these black medical professionals, the same ones that got out here and literally tried to shame you into following what the white man was telling everyone to do, and now it's playing out to where individuals are literally suddenly disappearing. These same individuals ain't getting together and saying, wait a minute, we got to do a huddle here because this thing, now we got our babies that are out here dying. Now our babies are out here dying. We got to do something about this. Now, I know what they told us, but we're going to have to get together. We're going to have to do something about this. We got to get together. We got to talk about this because this ain't, I haven't heard about one symposium, one consortium. I haven't heard any of that. We need to do our own research on this. Now, a lot of them say, well, I did the study. You just repeating what was being told to you. But I'm talking about where you don't take the Rockefeller money. You take your own money. I'm talking about black doctors and medical professionals out there. You take your own money. Y'all get together and you do your own study and you look at why this is happening. Okay, you do that and then you come up with your own conclusion, not that's independent of what these people who trained you to say. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I talked about that. Okay, because I'll go into that real quick, but I ain't gonna do that. They ain't gonna entrap me on that. Okay, so watch that video. That video is about a half an hour long. I posted that on community page, so you can watch that. But these are things, again, we ain't gonna read. I'm just gonna simply repeat what these people are telling. These people don't care about you. So that's why I said that's my perspective. Regardless if they're talking about history, regardless if they're dealing with our health, regardless if they're talking about food and all that stuff, I don't trust these people, period. I don't. So I don't look to them to provide me anything. This is why on this platform, we try to help people and show people ways where you can be self-reliant and also be resilient, because again, these fools are likely to pull anything at any given time. And we're going to have to learn how to be resilient. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. There's a lot more I can say, but I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so I hope you got something out of this, family. And again, last time, this ain't about getting you to vote for anybody. I don't care about that. But it's about really challenging our people to begin to start reading. Reading. Don't just run and jump on stuff. I will have to say, I will give you this one last thing. This is something I've said many times. The last real estate bubble, we were living out in California again at this time. I can't tell you how many people we came across, black folks, and I'm going to emphasize this, who were in the industry. I'm talking about real estate industry. These are black people. Hope you're tracking with me. Not just real estate agents. I'm talking about loan officers, black folks who knew that the black people they were selling these homes to were not taking the time to read the contracts. They knew that. And in some cases, they were laughing about it. It was funny to them. Black folks were doing this. And then the black people who they were just excited because they was able to get a home, not realizing that their interest rate was going to go through the moon. They ain't care. And the amount of black folks who lost their homes during that time. See, when I'm talking about these things, family, I'm not just running my mouth. I spoke to the top guy. This is a gentleman who the Congress at that time, I don't know if they still pull him on or not. He was considered the top loan officer in the nation. I was able to contact him and I did an interview with him. I asked him these questions. I said, let me ask you something. I said, because I'm hearing a lot of talk about how black people are being targeted and all this other stuff. I said, let me ask you something. I asked him point blank. I said, the loan officers that you train throughout the nation, are there also a significant amount of black folks that you're training that's doing this same stuff? And he paused for a brief moment, but then he said, yep. He said, absolutely. He said, there are black loan officers as well out here that are basically giving bad information or withholding information as well. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. That video I uploaded last night, that weird one with that white lady in the background, she mumbled, she literally acting like a ventriloquist like that. See, you be careful what you ask for. You ask for black representation. What you're really asking for is a black puppet. Because behind that puppet, it can be black, Hispanic. It don't matter. There's powers that shouldn't be that are behind them and are telling them what to read. Do you think Obama was sitting up there making decisions and calling the shots in the White House? You a fool to think that. In fact, no president is calling shots. Even Trump. They all got their role to play. And they all got a script to read. That's how it works. So my challenge to you again, family, please help me to go to sleep good tonight. I'm telling you, this has really bothered me for real. You know, because I hate seeing our people getting deceived. Please take the time when you come across things, and we welcome people, even the stuff that we put out here. Check it. Check it out. Verify it. Am I telling you the truth? Am I stretching things? Am I omitting things or whatever? Say it. Don't just take my word for it. You check it yourself. You understand what I'm saying? So please do that for yourself. Teach the other people in your household to do the same thing before you just jump to conclusions, because resiliency is going to be very key. You're going to need to learn how to be resilient in the times that we are entering in. You're going to need to learn how to be resilient, self-reliant, how to who to network with. You think just because we getting a bunch of black folks together, you know, and I got my network here, because not all them black folks are for you. Some of them Negroes, they will cut your neck quicker than any racist white person would. So you got to also familiarize yourself with the people that you're connecting with. You understand what I'm saying? And work with people who are willing to work with you and not against you. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, a lot more can be said, but I hope you got the point, family. I am done. Finally, I'm going to go downstairs and get something to eat. But listen, you guys take care. I know we putting out, I got like 2 more videos. I got like 2 or 3 other videos I'm going to be putting out this week. So yeah, we putting in work this week. Because I'm trying to do it all right now, because it's going to be in really soon. It's going to be like a break. We're going to take a break and then we'll resume everything. But I'm just trying to get as much in right now, you know. So there you go, family. Listen, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in.